Charlie Walter, how you doing today? We have a little announcement to make, or I guess maybe a tease. Maybe a tease is better than an announcement here. But as anybody that is watching Off the Bench knows, or that is maybe better put, watching Chatterbox Reds knows, we're starting to expand our coverage here in the Cincinnati area and starting to branch out, cover some more teams. And the biggest thing that we've been wanting to do is get you that live post-game reaction, get you that daily coverage, whatever it might be, of your favorite teams. Charlie, you're coming on board, and you're gonna be our UC guy. Charlie, welcome to the team.
I figure I watch all the games anyway. I'm screaming at the TV regardless. May as well break it down afterwards and have a little community to banter to. Hopefully a couple of good squads. Football team, and we'll see. There are some experienced players that are joining the team. It's just kind of a shoulder shrug of what we're going to get because they're all transfers in this day and age. And then the Scott Satterfield experience, you know, he did step into Louisville after the whole Bobby Petrino mess and was ACC Coach of the Year in his first year. So maybe he could do something like that in Cincinnati. I think he inherits a better experience and inherits a better program right now than Louisville was when he first got there. But basketball is where I'm really excited. That's where the bread and butter is. And I know, Paulie, you're a big Xavier guy, so we'll have some fun shows when the shootout comes. But West go. Let's just say that. West go.
Absolutely. So, Charlie, let me give you a chance here to kind of tell the people who you are, what your experience. You've been around here in Cincinnati for a while. You were a host of the Reds post-game show. You had been a host there for a while. You've been around UC, obviously, for a long time. You grew up here in Cincinnati. You've been broadcasting out in the Bay Area for the last few years, but you're coming back here to the Midwest. Not to Cincinnati, but at least to the Midwest. So give some people maybe your background. We already hear in the chat a lot of people that are Bearcats fans are ready to tune in, ready to follow you on Twitter. So just give the people kind of a background of who you are and what we can expect to hear from you this fall and the winter.
Yeah, so as you can tell, based on my background, I'm moving very shortly. Thursday, we're packing up the van. We're making the 3-day trip cross-country to the Midwest, and it's going to suck. Let's just put it that way. It was terrible on the way out here. At least we got to stop at Vegas and have a little gambling day on the way out for some college football. On the way back, it's just my father-in-law and I, and we're driving through like the Nebraskas of the world with 2 dogs. So we're moving back to the Midwest. Experience out here was incredible. 2 years for the CBS in San Francisco. Also worked up in Sacramento the first year I was out here. Got to cover a Warriors championship. The San Francisco Giants went in 107. Stanford and Cal were garbage, so I'm excited to get back to a more college-friendly environment. Literally, no one cares about collegiate athletics out here. It's wild. And then got to see the rise of Brock Purdy and being a CBS station. We did all the post-game shows for the Raiders and the 49ers, and that was my favorite assignment. I loved covering the NFL out here, so that'll be tough to give up, but I am excited to head back to the Midwest, see what's next. And when Trace reached out and said, hey, we want someone running the Bearcats content, I reached out to my buddy Houdini, who's a former Elder Panther, and we're getting after it with the realest takes known to mankind.
So he can't hear you right now, but sitting over to my left is Elliot Rearing, who came to us from iHeart 700 and 1530. He also is an Elder guy. So his co-host, Elliot, I'm going to mediate here, is an Elder guy.
Let's go. What's his name?
Well, yeah, what is it?
Go ahead.
Hudson Klauke is his name.
Hudson Klauke.
Goes by Houdini, a former standout.
Do you know Thom or Dave Rearing?
I recognize the name. It's Cincinnati.
No, but he's not
the name somewhere.
We got to get a headset over. I gotta. Anyway, go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we're just hosting this thing. He's more in the so I wouldn't go full big J, but I'd go the half capital J. You know, I've been a journalist out here for a minute, but I know I've also done a lot of talk radio, so I can mix it up. And then he is just in finance and has no obligations to the world of broadcasting whatsoever. But what he does bring to the table is he's a hysterical dude. So we're just going to have a fun show. We're going to talk Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays on the podcast app, maybe throw a little show on YouTube. And then immediately after Bearcats games, going to get that thing going, and we're gonna let it rip.
So you guys have already done this podcast. I'm not gonna pub the name of it yet because we're still working on getting it over to the Chatterbox platform. But it's gonna be the same podcast that we're just gonna bring over. Correct? I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's my understanding of it.
Yes, and it basically just looked at Cincinnati sports through a different lens. It was not as much X's and O's, not as much nuts and bolts, but it was more so just two dudes sitting on a couch, their reaction to what's going on around Cincinnati sports. And then obviously with me having stops in Knoxville, Tennessee, covering the Vols, Lexington, covering the UK Wildcats. I've been in Alabama, covered Auburn, Alabama. At this point, local's my niche, but I'll touch anything and everything. As long as it's good content, we're going to be there for you.
Great. So that's going to be coming up here in the fall. We're going to start fairly soon. Football is not too far around the corner. And let's start with football. First off, Charlie, I got to get your thoughts here. The Reds have not won a game since Satterfield threw out the first pitch. Your thoughts?
I bet the Louisville fans are fired up about that. I've never seen a coach, at least since Brian Kelly left and Marty Gilliard and the gang was like, screw this guy. I have not seen a program turn on a coach so quickly. Usually it's, thanks for the memories, coach. We'll miss you, coach. No, everyone at Louisville's like, enjoy them. Enjoy them. Enjoy running on 3rd and 17. So apparently Satterfield loves to run the ball. I actually remember him back at Appalachian State. My first job in Montgomery, Alabama, they were playing in the Raycom Camellia Bowl against the Ohio Bobcats, my alma mater. And he was a hot young coach at the time. Everyone wanted Scott Satterfield. Louisville was the team that landed him and went there. ACC Coach of the Year his first year. Everyone was loving the Scott Satterfield train. Got a little better his second year, and then they just kind of stayed stagnant for a few more years to the point where he did leave the program a lot better than when he found it, but he found it pretty terribly. As for the team, a lot of newcomers. That's all I got to say. It's kind of hard to look at the roster right now and be confident one way or the other. I will say this. They avoid Kansas State. They avoid Texas. They avoid Texas Tech. And they avoid TCU. So they have the easiest Big 12 schedule known to mankind. That should help a little bit.
Yeah. As far as your outlook for this season, the win total, I believe, is 4.5 for the Bearcats on the season. And like I said, we don't need to get into breaking everything down right now. I'm going to give you the floor to do everything for that as this goes along. But 4.5 is the win total right now. You taking the over on that?
Over, for sure. 4.5. We got Miami, Ohio in there. That's a win. They head up to Heinz Field. They get shades of "Cut Armand Benz." We get some more some Heinz Field magic. Pike to Benz. I know neither of them will be on the field, but maybe Pike will be in the broadcast booth or something and could give us some magic there. But that's 2 wins right there. You got Kansas on the schedule. Kansas, come on, they can beat Kansas. A few others I see there. I like the over 4.5. They do have Emory Jones as the quarterback. Plenty of big-time experience. It was hit or miss at Florida, did nothing at Arizona State, but I like him to potentially bounce back. It seems like players, when they come to Cincinnati, they kind of find their groove a little bit. And then Corey Kiner, the running back. Satterfield's going to want to run it, so it comes down to, is this offensive line big enough, tough enough? Are they good enough in the trenches?
So it sounds like, Charlie, you have a more positive outlook about this team than maybe some other people do around this city.
It's an I don't know. It really is an I don't know, because they do have experience. Like, I'm staring at the depth chart right now, and they're going to be running out juniors and seniors all over the place. It's not a bunch of freshmen. They're just coming from different programs, so we don't know what to expect when they put on the black and red. Doing New Jersey's coming. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, you got any comment on that? Because that was a whole deal.
What, the fact that they're not actually licensed by Nike right now? They're just buying.
So what is it? It's like an in? It's like they gotta dip their toe in the water before they jump in the deep end? What's the deal?
Yeah, I guess they're just buying the Nike gear and then they're sewing on a C patch. The same thing that Nike would do regardless. Like, who cares? Come on.
All right. How about basketball? Let's go football to basketball here. I know you and I have gone back and forth. If anybody listens to the Rebound Rundown that's listening in the chat here, Charlie's was on several times this season, so you've definitely heard Charlie's thoughts on the basketball team. And if you did listen to Charlie, it means you know that his thoughts is the year went along, they evolved, because if you listened after the Maui, there was some therapy going on after the Maui on the Rebound Rundown. And then when we rolled around to maybe mid-February, there was a very different tone. So kind of walk us through where your thoughts are on Wes and the crew.
Yeah, so I told you after the Arizona game last year that they're not going to be a great basketball team. They were just lacking too many ingredients in their pot. This year, however, I love what Wes has done. The question's going to become, can these two bigs become eligible? Aziz Bandango from Utah State. Utah Valley. Everyone knows what he brings to the table. When they played them in the NIT, he was the best player on the floor. It was dominating locking. An absolute stud from day one. He'll step in and he could be really good for the Bearcats, as is Jameel Reynolds from Temple, the other big. Anyone that watched the Cats last year knew that physicality has been an issue since the day John Brennan took over. Everyone was, just kind of, not everyone, but a lot of people were tired with Cronin bowing out in round one and just not having the offense. Everyone said, we need some offense. Well, we finally got the offense. Now there's no defense and toughness. The Bearcats had no issue scoring it last year. This year, that should change, though. I think Jizzle James is going to be ready to play from day one. I don't know about Rayvon Griffith. We'll see with his skill set. I think he could be ready to contribute at least a little. Anything that he gives above 5-6 points per game, to me, is a plus. As is the same with Day Thomas, the junior college transfer. I just don't know yet what he's going to bring to the table, just because you don't really know until you see him. But Bandango and Reynolds, I know for a fact they would contribute. CJ Frederick, if he's healthy, is going to pick things back up and be better than he was in Kentucky. This is just going to be a better fit for him. And then you just go down the list of who's returning. I looked at a picture of Dan Skillings the other day. He's got some shoulders on him now. He's been in the Monster Factory in the offseason doing his Y's, T's, and L's and his shrugs. He looks good. He was skilled last year. I think he could be the best player on the team potentially. And that's what I like about this Bearcats team. /don't like. I look at like 4 or 5 different dudes and say, he could be the best player. No, he could be the best player on the team. And that means your team could stink, or you could have a lot of guys that can contribute, and that's where the Bearcats are right now. But I like what Wes is doing. I think he's perfect to lead this program. If basketball doesn't work out for him, he's got all the makings of being a U.S. politician, maybe like a senator or something like that. So I really like what Wes is doing with the program right now, saying all the right things, recruiting all the right guys. But he needs more wins because his on-floor success right now is at about a D+, C-. The Bearcats have stunk for a minute, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
When you ask, the leash on Wes is tough because it's not like he's on the hot seat. It's he's not on the hot seat. He's only been there a couple years. It's not like we're going to have that conversation. But there is the flip side of the coin where there is, I would say, maybe a little pressure. Hot seat is not the right term because that's unfair. That's straight up unfair. But there might be a little pressure. I don't know if you'd agree with this, Charlie, but I'll get your thoughts on it. There might be a little pressure on Wes this year where you've done a lot in the offseason. You hit the transfer portal hard. You have a historic class of freshmen coming in that seem to be talented, and at least maybe 1 to 2 of them could contribute right away this year. You don't always want to count on the freshmen in this day and age of college basketball or the way it goes. It just seems like the transfers that come in, some of these older players are the ones that actually are the ones that contribute. But you also have to keep the freshmen happy because in the transfer portal, they could be gone. I say all of that to say that UC hasn't made the tournament in the last few years, haven't won the shootout in the last few years, but there's been a lot of change in there. You had John Brennan, they have Wes Miller. Both of them had to build their own teams. A lot of things were in flux. But now Wes has been here in a couple years. And you got to go out there and you got to show something, but you're also joining the Big 12. So how do you keep all of those things in the same mindset as you approach what you are expecting to see out of this team this year?
Yeah, one more player to add for Butler, Simas Lukosius, right? He could be a nice player too. So the Cats do have some good players. The way I sit at it right now is Wes is going to have every chance to not put himself on the hot seat. Could he be on the hot seat entering next year? It depends. I think if they're the worst team in the Big 12, despite how good the conference is, he's on my hot seat. I don't know about the I don't know about the staff or anything, and the management that's controlling that. I don't have any say in that. But me personally, absolutely. If they finish last in the Big 12, 3 seasons in for Wes Miller, still hasn't beaten Houston, Xavier, Memphis, really have any massive signature wins. Because last year they beat UCF at home, and everyone's like, there's a signature win for West. It's not a signature win. Give me a break. The Illinois win, that was a one-off because Mikey Saunders had about 30 and Davenport nailed about 17 threes. That'll happen once every blue moon. The teams haven't been good enough. I think he knows that, and he hit the portal hard and got a bunch of players that can help this year. If these players don't help, for whatever reason, if he evaluated wrong again, and we have another situation where, forgetting his name right now, but the Old Dominion transfer, Kalua Zipke, if we get another one of those situations where, he brings in some guys that on paper, because Zipke last year, I was like, he's going to help. Even in game 1 against Chaminade, I was like, this guy can play. And then he sits on the bench for 7 straight games. If that happens again this year and this team finishes last in the Big 12, he's on my hot seat. Absolutely. How many years are we going to give the guy? Just because he carries himself like a U.S. senator? Are we going to give him 10 years? No. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to turn it around this year, and they're going to show signs of improvement, which we need, because if there's a very low finish in the Big 12, I'm going to start questioning things because all the talent's there, it would seem.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that because you look at last year and what they did in the offseason. It didn't feel like last season's roster was overly talented. They had, going into the season, some pieces that they thought were going to work, but you had a really, really talented point guard in David DeJulius. I mean, that's somebody that, he was somebody you could build around, but you didn't have a ton around him because Landers Nolly probably didn't pan out the way you were hoping. He was good. He had a good season. But as far as Nolly, DeJulius, you had Locken, who had a decent season. But we're talking about the Big 12 here. We're talking about Kansas. We're talking about some of the best teams in the country. We're talking about teams that have won multiple national championships in the last 3 years.
Your off night's going to be West Virginia this year, right? Going up to the Coliseum in Morgantown. That's going to be an off night in the Big 12. I'm trying to think of who else could potentially stink. Maybe TCU falls off a little bit. Oklahoma hasn't been great in years past. But aside from that, every single team can play. I don't expect Iowa State to be dropping off much. So it's going to be difficult in that regard. Last year they went into the season and the Micah Adams Woods of the world and the Davenport, we found out the year before that he just couldn't defend at the highest level. And Odio Guama, I know he's back this year. He showed actually a ton of improvement last year to where I'm somewhat excited to see what he can do defensively. But last year he just wasn't ready to contribute. And then they bring in Rob Fennessy. I talked to a bunch of Indiana fans before the season, and they said, he's fine. He's not going to help you win a national title. And I mean, that's what we want to get back to, is players that can help you win a national title. And I think that's what Wes did this offseason. He went out and at least got players that can help them make the NCAA tournament as a starting point. And he's going to be here for a minute. I believe that. So get the building blocks in place, and I think he's off to a good start.
All right, before I let you go, Charlie, because first off, I want to say thanks for joining since it's, 7:48 out where you are right now?
It's 7:48. I got my wife. I'm trying to be somewhat quiet. Normally I come I yell into this microphone, but right now I'm being a little bit quiet, respectful of my wife who's in the other room sleeping right now. But I gave her a little headset earmuff thing, so she's sleeping over there right now to probably some sounds of the rainforest. So
white noise.
She's being serenaded in there, and I'm going straight to bed after this. So this is just a little cameo in the morning.
There we
go. To see what this is all about. Love it.
So last thing I want to ask you, the Reds. Any thoughts on what you're seeing here out of the Reds? I guess put you on the spot since I told you we were going to talk UC, but it's been a historic week for the Redlegs the last couple of weeks. Now they've lost 3 in a row. Any reaction to that? Have you seen any of that? I know you've been busy moving. If you haven't, you can say no. Paul, kick rocks. I'm going back to bed.
I love it. I love everything about it. And the best part is there's no payroll to cut. We're not paying anyone. Votto is going to be off the books next year. Moose off the books next year. I think Griffey's still on the books. He's going to be off either next year or the next. So you're getting all these contracts off the books. and you're not paying Ellie anything yet. You're not paying McClain anything yet. Christian Encarnacion Strand's coming up. Marte's getting close. The best part about this team is the offense is great. The pitching sucks. You're not going to sign any pitching in the offseason because no one wants to pitch at Great American Small Park. So what can the Reds do? They can make some trades. And I love the market right now. I love ransacking the White Sox, even if it's Michael Kopech or Lucas Giolito. If you can get Dylan Cease, who's controlled through either 25 or 26, I would absolutely give up a blue chip prospect like a Christian Encarnacion Strand or a Marte to get him if it's a one-on-one swap. I don't want to get too in the habit of giving up a ton of prospects, but they need pitching right now. These arms are an absolute travesty, and everyone knows it that's watching these games. You're not going to get a bunch of free agent signings in the offseason because, again, no one wants their ERA to be inflated at GABP. So with that being said, whether it's Cease, whether it's you go out and get Shane Bieber, whether you go out and get, I've heard some people saying Michael Lorenzen. I don't know how much he helps your team. I got him on my fantasy team. I drop him every other week and pick him back up. He's a streamer at this point. So I don't know if he's the guy we're looking for, but they just need anyone over the improvements that they have. Hell, Kevin Quackenbush, is he still out there? We'll take him at this point.
What about Jonathan India? Are you keeping him or are you dealing him?
That's tough because I love India. I
so
love
do
India and the vibes that he brings to this team, but you don't need more hitters right now. So it just depends whether you want to give up India or whether you want to give up a CES, a Marte, and a Arroyo, someone from the minors right now. And that's the tough decisions that management are going to have to make. But if they did give up India in a clean swap for a Shane Bieber, I don't know his control, but I know Cease. Let's say India, and they throw in a little prospect for Dylan Cease, who's controlled for like 3 more years. I'd say why not? The Cy Young runner-up, you need arms. You can shift around the infield, and when you bring up Encarnacion Strand, you're not going to have a spot for him anyways. So, yeah, that's the question I wonder. And here's the big question I ask. Is there any chance that with how much Joey Votto loves this team and loves this city right now, is there any chance that he would take like a really team-friendly deal, like the minimum, to play next year just to be a part of this and potentially win a World Series? Or is that, is he too big for that at this point?
We were talking about that yesterday after the show was over. We were talking about what Votto might be able to do or not do or what he would be willing to do, really. Why not? Why wouldn't he?
Seems like he's enjoying himself quite a bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, Charlie, again, anything else that you want to pitch before I let you go? Anything else that good job, Reed. Anything else that we want to pitch before you get out of here?
I am going to be feeling the rain on my skin. It's a terrible day in Pacifica, California. We do have the world's nicest Taco Bell, so if you're ever out in the Bay Area, head down to Pacifica, check out the world's nicest Taco Bell. And if you want to make yourself feel a lot better in Cincinnati today, look up real estate prices in the Bay Area. That'll make you feel good about yourself because it's ridiculous out here. I'm excited to get back to the Midwest and excited to just to join the chatter.
Love it. Join the chatter. That's the way to sign off. Thank you very much, Charlie. Appreciate it. Safe travels.
Thanks, man. Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon.